Okay, so now we come to the final panel of the day, or the final panel of this track. So we have some well-known people for the conference. So Kelly, do you want to come up? Comparing. Good to see Alex. I think you've another year chalked off there. Alex is good. Romain and Stefan as well, who are on the panel.
Hello, everybody that is interested in NFT and all that jazz. I'm Kelly Vero, your friendly neighborhood dream destroyer, and I'm here with a stellar panel of fantastic dudes who are now going to introduce themselves. Our actual discussion is going to be really revolving solely around NFTs. So sometimes we're going to get a bit technical. We're also going to talk about game development, but let's kick off anyway. In the spirit of Blind Date with Cilla Black, I want you to all introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, where you come from, and what you do.
I'm Alex. I've been in crypto for 10 years and games for about 30 years. I'm probably most well known because I did the third highest NFT sale last year. But I also do investing around the space, so everything from Ethereum to seed investor in Axie Infinity, and now in AI projects actually like Stability.ai.
Hi, I'm Romain. I'm the gamer representative, I guess, here, and the game developer. So my original background was actually being a banker and a strategy consultant, and I ended up playing a lot of mobile games, spent far too much money on them, and ended up having a massive following of people and a world #1 clan, which I was leading for many years. And as a result, they became friends. As a result, we thought we were stupid of spending so much money on games. As a result, we decided we are much more advanced and clever if we built a gaming business. We tried to build a gaming business long before crypto. The gaming business developed. Then we learned that not everything is about your game because I guess our backend was shut down by a big company. And yeah, we then luckily found a few amazing co-founders to try again. The co-founders built a small mobile gaming company called SPECTARIUM before, which they sold for quite a bit of money. And they loved what we proposed to do. It's an action RPG with elements of Dungeon Keeper, so you don't just kill monsters, but you can actually bring your own monsters and content to the world. But I can't say more about that. But it's definitely going to be cool, and it's VC funded, so you'll see more soon about it.
Hi, I'm Stefan Colins. I'm in crypto since 2017. I'm head of marketing and community at Venly, so one of the sponsors of this NFT track. And Venly actually provides all tools game developers need to go to blockchain, so you can create real cool experiences. And we help you with going to blockchain and all the NFT stuff and technical things, but we will get into that later in this panel, I guess.
Now, we're talking about disruption in this space, creative media, sort of NFTs generally, and the role of disruption, because out of good disruption often comes great innovation. This past year, we've seen an absolute destruction of NFTs, in fact, to the point where people are rebranding NFTs as digital collectibles, haha. But what I want to get down to the crux of to start with is you, Stefan, because you're our kind of track sponsor anyway for this, and I think it's important that we give like a little bit of voice to you. What is your actual opinion about what has happened in the NFT space and the Web3 space to a certain extent in the wider marketplace over the course of the past year?
Yeah, that's quite a good question to start with. I guess, or we all agree that the NFT technology is quite remarkable, but we are not using it as we should be. Like, we as insiders understand what an NFT is, but outsiders doesn't understand why we spend a lot of money on just stupid JPEG. Besides that, and I'm speaking about the 21, there was a lot of NFT projects and games coming to the space, but solely focusing on, this is my opinion, on selling out NFTs and not on creating real experiences and games. So it put a little bit a bad reputation on what gaming and Web3 gaming is, because yeah, if you put the money in front rather than the experiences, and suddenly bear market hit it last year. People were like 90% down in NFTs, so they have not a lot of stuff to be enthusiastic about. But I believe that when you as a game deliver NFTs which add value to your game, and that it's not about the monetary system, but more about ownership and about the experiences, that you will do much better. So I think it was way too much focus on NFT flipping, and that's why sentiment went down. And of course, if crypto is going down and the value is in Ethereum, and you have an ape that dropped 50, 60, 90%, that was the bad reputation for the industry. So
I agree. I think it was like mostly a load of old crap, but I think we can all agree that NFTs do have their place, and I think that NFTs have got a very strong use case inside game development, which brings me to Romain, because what I want to know is, why would game developers start to think about NFT and Web3 as a sort of vehicle for developing games?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time discussing it with my fellow peers, and there is many reasons why game developers went into NFTs. A lot of them don't apply today. So it used to be a shortcut to quick and easy funding in a world where publishers want you to have games with KPIs which are already stellar, and when you actually don't need the money anymore. So this changed with, let's say, Web3 one and a half, 2 years ago, when they all jumped onto the bandwagon. So I'm taking these ones now out of the equation and looking at the ones who are still fighting the NFT fight and fighting the Web3 fight and trying to change things. And here again, there is different camps. So there's the camp of the ones who are essentially on-chain, full-on believers. So for them, this is a new way of freedom, a new way of building games where essentially you just launch a little thing and then let other people complete it and build it into a massive or not so massive fun product. And for them, obviously, the use case is very clear. It's like an essential building block of what they are building. You want NFTs, you want tokens, and this is what allows people the freedom to build upon the system and then later monetize and pay each other. It also works when the people are young, or don't even have bank accounts. So for them, the use case, hey, you give them something which is valuable, so this is their way of money and currency without having access to proper money and currency. So it makes a lot of sense for, let's say, this group of people. Then there is the other group, let's say the older, more veteran developers who have made games before, who know what mass market products are, and they build just on top of it and use it as another monetization layer. So.
And with that in mind then, because NFT, the big year was 2022, I think a lot of people that were really interested in NFTs or experienced NFTs for the first time probably actually did all right if they weren't buying some crappy old JPEG. But for game development, Alex, let's look at the NFT like a little bit deeper as being a bit more of a, I don't know, the interoperability nature of it. That seems to be the thing that has been born out of the NFT over the course of the last few months. And where, I know Romain started to talk about it, but where do you think that the NFT can take us from an interoperability perspective?
So several
if at all.
Well, I can. Several years ago, I can't remember what year it was, I did my first panel or talk here. John, you might know the year, I don't even know. And it was about NFTs, but I don't think we had the term NFT at the time. It must have been pretty close. Yeah. Okay, we did just about have the term then. But I was writing and had a company from 2 years before talking about NFTs and making NFT projects, but we just didn't call them NFTs. But I wrote a blog on my Medium, which is sillytuner.medium.com, I think. And you can go back to 2016, I think, when I was writing about it. And I talked about NFTs under another name, and I talked about essentially interoperability, but not in the way that people until recently have been talking about it. And I know Susan did talk about NFTs being used across games. NFTs are a fantastic marketing tool for brands, and I still think that's the big deal, that it's starting to be exploited by the likes of Nike, because if you're making a game and you're trying to sell some NFTs, you've got all the problems that we've seen. Like, where's the game? When does the price go up? What happens if it goes down? You get a lot of angry people. Plus, the game industry currently hate NFTs in reality. Certainly, a lot of journalists do, and that has an effect on users and so on. But if brands release NFTs, if Nike release, they've got obviously their own artifacts. Adidas release NFTs. If they give NFTs away when you buy the sneakers or the clothing or go to sports events, and then those NFTs have power within, FIFA or whatever your sports game is, or Call of Duty or anything else. That's the future that I see. It's not that games won't have NFTs, because I do believe in them, but I think brands making content and then doing deals, sometimes licensed deals, sometimes without permission for other game devs. Though the content that brands produce, that people own, that will have use within game products and other social media and so on. And that's interoperability.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the whole idea of creating digital waste is as bad as creating waste. I'm wearing like a really nice pair of Space Jam sneakers, but I think you all remember the Space Jam website, which is really cool and in and of itself now, but actually it's technically digital waste because it was sitting on a server for 25 years. That's not the idea of what it is that we want to do with NFTs, really. We want to be able to pass things like over and move things around rather than just...
I like digital waste. I'm going to
Get
say
out
why.
of here right now.
I'm going to say why. Because you don't know what waste is until you can look back. So in the digital world, we can afford to create a lot of stuff, and then maybe only 1% of it is personally valued or has financial value, but we don't know what that 1% is going to be. So in the physical world, that matters because we're making stuff, we're damaging the environment, we're using things. In the digital world, it really doesn't matter so much.
Unless you're Balenciaga, and then it doesn't really matter. You're just leaving it on a server for the rest of time. Romain, talk to me about RPGs, because they're quite a closed environment. I've seen that Square Enix are starting to get on the sort of NFT train. They're starting to look at blockchain as a bit more of a sensible infrastructure for them to be able to do the things they want to do. If we come back down to the content itself, how are we going to be able to capture or use Web3 structures and transplant the nature of Web3 and blockchain to open up the game a little bit more?
RPGs have one interesting thing. They can create amazing legends and super valuable things for users. You can have people playing them for years and years and then having their precious little object. I mean, I personally was world #1 in the game, and I collected planets. And these planets became really dear to me, and I spent a fortune obtaining them. And I would have wished to be able to show those planets to other people, except for having them download a certain app and then showing them off, because that's my vanity and bragging thing. So RPGs have that. You spend a lot of time building something that you really like and it's precious to you, and having the ability to basically show it off, sharing it, putting it out there, that's where everybody knows it at least, or at least a certain percentage. That's where NFTs can shine. So the ownership on the bragging side of things, especially in the RPG worlds and other things, you don't need a big economy for that. You just need people who become great, get a great achievement, and then they want to have more representation of that outside of the little gaming cosmos that it's captured in. So that's something to think about.
As a side question, what do you think about like massive gaming publishers and companies moving into this space? Like, I hate to use the term bullish. Please, anyone punch me in the face for using that word. But for being bullish in this space, what do you think about like these big Japanese, who are famous for RPG, by the way, and JRPGs, just literally going into this space and saying, we'll take it, thanks. What do you think about it?
Well, I think they're very data-driven, so they will try it, and if the data says it's great, they will double down. If the data says it's not great, they will stop it instantly. So I wouldn't get too excited about it until they have done their first trials. But on the other hand, it has a lot of power in collectibles, right? And digital collectibles will be a thing, and in that narrow use case, not building big economies, ecosystems, I think there's a lot of chances it can succeed.
Yeah, I really like it. And that brings me to Venly, because I scratched my head about this when I was at Gamescom when I first met you guys, and we were on a panel as well separately. And I was interested as to the role that Venly plays. Why on earth, and this is a disruption question, I suppose, why on earth would you go into a space where, if you look around the room, there's a lot of people here who probably don't really want NFTs inside gaming. So why will Venly take that really big step and disrupt that entire space and say, thank you very much, we'll take that?
Our CEO, Tim, gave a presentation like an hour ago, and we strongly believe that like gaming will bring mainstream people towards Web3. And back in the days, they developed a lot of applications, but they saw there was a big issue in user onboarding, or I should say player onboarding in this space here. So, and that's why I think we could solve this by using like familiar Web2 experiences that people are used to use already and connected to Web3. So what we do is actually helping game studios with the player onboarding, because you can have a great game, you can create a fantastic game, but if you're not able, or Susan is choosing for MetaMask because she's targeting today more crypto savvy people, but if you create a game for and want to bring mainstream people in, you not focusing only on crypto people. So that's why we create a very easy way of user onboarding, player onboarding. Once you're onboarded, and actually less than 10 seconds, you have an account and a wallet. But I think as a game studio, you shouldn't talk about blockchain, because blockchain and all the technology is under the hood, and that's where we are. We live under the hood, we support game studios, and at first, bring players in and let player play your game. And if they like your game and they think that the game you're creating is something they want to be involved, they will create an account. And when they create an account, if you then have the power of creating an account and a wallet and all the assets that live in your game, which actually can live on the blockchain, is already in a wallet, and you don't need to educate them anymore that they need to transfer the NFT to a specific wallet and connect the wallet to their account. They should focus on the experience and playing the game and having fun. And over time, when the industry is more mature and we educate them, that they can maybe, if they don't want to play the game anymore and they put a lot of time in it and money, they maybe can then sell the NFT. And that's why we have all the solutions in place to support, because we strongly believe that gaming is one of the main drivers to bring people in. So yeah, it's tough, it's hard, because we were at Gamescom last year, and there were a lot of bad criticism of game studios that I don't believe in NFTs and NFTs is scam, and that is exactly what I explained. There's a lot of crap projects, money-driven NFT projects, and there weren't a lot of cool games in 21, and now making a game takes a few years. I believe that the new generation of Web3 games, which is coming soon and we see developing, will change the narrative in the gaming space. And I think in next year, or the year after, when we are here again, there will be a different sentiment about Web3 gaming for sure.
On that subject, what in 2022 was kind of like the best Web3 NFT game that you saw?
I think it's personal, but what I felt, and I like the guys of Cyberkongs, and just to explain, they had like a cool NFT project, and to explain what I meant with what's happened to the space, they had a lot of owners, and NFT flippers were flipping their NFT. They released the game, which is cool. It's the first version, of course, and they're trying to get feedback. But still, people, the floor price of the NFT dropped, and then you see that it was not about the game, it was about the money. And I think we should get rid of it. So I think the guys of Cyberkong do cool stuff, and of course we all know Sandbox, and they are working on creative stuff, and what the guys of Alien World is doing, and yeah, I'm not bullish. I'm bullish on Olivier.
Oh, punch him in the face.
Yeah. I think there are cool stuff going. But Cyberkongs did a cool job. But sadly, they released the version in like the heart of the NFT dropping space. So yeah, and it can kill your game too. So planning and community is important. But your community should be connected to the emotional part of the game and not about the flipping part. And this is, I have an example, and maybe I hope I do not offend people, but I'm happy what happened yesterday. Porsche released their NFT project. It's a big brand, so they thought, okay, we're going to do 7,500 NFTs, and the mint price will be .911 ETH. Yeah, it's 911, you know. But they didn't sell out. Less than 20% was sold out. Why? Because they used the techniques that a lot of scam projects used in 21. So it explains and it shows me that the industry is becoming more mature, and they're not going to fall in this trap of just buying an NFT, and maybe the NFT is cool, but the utility behind the NFT is not what people are waiting for. And they learned a lot, so you need to be, we need to do more and better in the space and bring a real value to NFT holders if we want to introduce NFT in the games.
They should have hired us for. We would
true.
Out.
Send them a message. So.
Now, Alex Amsel, if you don't know, is a bit of a legend in the games industry. And what I want to know is if people are like approaching NFT and Web3 and blockchain gaming, etc., for the first time, what sort of KPIs do they need to think about? That I know what it is that you're going to say, but for people that are relatively new to it, where would you start?
I don't know what I'm going to say. So I don't do KPIs. It's too complicated for me. It's old school. I want to go back to an arcade where you just put 10p in. If you're a game developer and you're looking at crypto and NFTs, I think you have to start out and just ask yourself why. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, like, it's got to be a positive response, because if you've not got a positive response to that, you're just looking for the money, and the money's not there in the way it was before, as we've just described. There definitely was some easy money there probably 12 months ago and 18 months ago. That's not there anymore. So you have to ask yourself why before you do any KPI type stuff. And then you've got to decide, and I think Susan did a good job on this in the last talk, who are your audience? Because if you're creating NFTs, probably, but not definitely, probably your audience is crypto people. And then if it's crypto people, then you've got to decide, where are these crypto people, and who actually has got money from those crypto people, who's going to be a positive audience for me? And I've been telling people for years, you're basically talking Ethereum and maybe one or two other chains. Don't get tempted by people waving money at you, going, come to our chain, we'll pay you to come on our chain. Because you've forgotten what the whole point of NFTs is, which is you've got this interoperable nature, whether it's, and interoperable includes having third-party marketplaces that can sell your content, like OpenSea or anyone else. That's still interoperability. People creating apps like Floor to let people look at what they own. And we'll see a lot more of that type of stuff in the future. So in reality, you've got to know where your audience is and target them. I'm not saying you have to use Ethereum or an Ethereum-related chain. I'm saying if you're not on there, you need a very, very good reason to be not on there. There are some ones that are worth thinking about. So these things are really important. That said, you can look at a mainstream audience as well, but typically I think if you're looking at a mainstream audience, you really have to be an existing brand and have a really, really big following on something like Instagram, and be, I'm not saying you have to be as big as Reddit, but Reddit have done a phenomenal job of their digital collectibles, because they're just avatars, they're cheap, they're easy to use, there's no mention of NFTs, but you can essentially convert them to NFTs. So all these things matter. Do you have an audience? Are you going for a crypto audience? Which chain are you going to be on? Why are you doing it in the first place? And frankly, should you wait another year as things mature? A lot of the technology is maturing, thanks to people like Venly and so on. Over the next 12 months, we're going to see solutions to a lot of these security issues and all sorts of other problems, and usability issues. So maybe wait.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
So we are blockchain agnostic, and why? Because we indeed think that's important. We are under the hood, and it shouldn't care at the end of the day on what chain a game is and what you do. And I hope that from the technology point of view, we can fix the problem, and interoperability will support this. And it's a big interoperability. It's an expensive name today, and it's not there yet, but it will come. This is why we help studios. They choose maybe for one chain to start with, but we help them with different chains. We don't know what will be the next best chain for releasing games on blockchain and stuff. So that's why we have the blockchain agnostic approach, and also device agnostic. We don't know mobile gaming, platform, web gaming, all the stuff. That this is what we do, and that's what you mean. The chain does matter for an NFT project, but for a game, under the hood, if you have the functionality and you want to do like quick minting in a game, or you have dynamic NFTs, then of course you need to choose a chain that supports this technology-wise. But at the end of the day, yeah.
I think that's one important point as well, which again is probably important for you guys, and you obviously will have made your decision. What platform is your game going to be on, or what platform you experience with? If you're iOS and Android, you need to understand Apple and Google's rules for their stores, or the rules in the relevant territory you're going to sell in, because there are rules around NFTs. They're not necessarily positive. If you're on console, again, Nintendo, as far as I know, aren't going near them. Sony and Microsoft are more open-minded. But on console, if you want to go on Steam, well, we know that Steam don't want to do them, and Epic will be more supportive in the future. But there's all these complications about like where you're selling, where you want your mainstream audience to be. It's not easy to go and do an NFT game. There's all these decisions to make. So these are all additional considerations to think about, where again, in 1 or 2 or 3 years' time, maybe Apple will support like crypto wallets natively. Maybe they'll be more open to NFTs. I hope so, because there's going to be so much pressure on them. But for me, it's another reason that you go in with caution and being really, really sure about what you're doing.
I would just say in closing that an NFT is not going to save your shitty game. So work on your game first and then do the NFTs after. Right, so I'd love to take some questions from the audience. Has anybody got any questions for these legends? Any questions? John, you must have like 1 million.
No pressure, John. Come up with a question.
Hello.
I was about to ask the restrictions on the App Store and Android as well. You briefly mentioned on that. But what do you see in the near future for the games already in the phase of development? Like, do you think that another means of distribution channel is an option for the Web3? And how should the game studios approach on this?
My personal view is we need the NFT and crypto markets to be rather more trustworthy. We need wallets to be much easier and ideally embedded into phones, which they can be from a technical point of view. There's definitely pressure from investors and large companies to do that. But I can actually understand, I don't like it, but I can understand the likes of Valve pushing away crypto games, not just from a reputational point of view, but from a regulatory point of view, because they don't quite know what's happening with those games. People could be using tokens in weird ways. We've seen lots of frauds. So I think we genuinely need probably 2 solid years of settling down and understanding how to do these things better before we're going to see platforms starting to embrace them. It's going to be at least 2 years. And there's no, in reality, there's no scope, certainly on iOS and probably not on Android either, for getting around these things through other distribution mechanisms. But you can, of course, do browser-based games. You can do stuff that your game works with through the web. You can do PC downloads, all sorts.
Yeah, and I also think if you have like a web-based game where you have an account and you have stuff in your wallet, you can make spin-offs of the game. You see like games are making spin-offs, and you log in with the same social connect, and you use, and the system knows what NFTs you have, and they unlock special forces and special tools in the mobile game itself. But doing transactions and buying NFTs within the mobile, this is the next step, and I fully agree that it will take some time to get to do. And we follow up, of course, with all the, we can do it. Technology-wise, it's not an issue at all, but it's regulation and crypto and yeah.
Hi, thanks for that. You spoke earlier about the use of NFTs by brands, which I thought was an interesting concept. So take Nike as an example. But if you look at the world as it is today, I suppose Nike could license its IP to produce in-game skins, and it could get multiple revenue streams as a result of that. If you then take the NFT example, it would in effect be exchanging multiple revenue streams for a single revenue stream. So presumably the cost of that NFT would be much higher. So do you see the world evolving to a state where NFTs are affordable and accessible by the majority of people, or do you think that there'll be these highly valuable assets that are only accessible by a minority?
For the second question, there's always going to be whale assets, which I know is what you focus on. There's always going to be whale assets. It's a great, to be honest, I have no issue with that. And there's going to be lots of free and low-cost stuff. To the first question, it doesn't mean exchanging their licensing revenue streams. They'll still do licensing revenue streams. But what it does is, it's essentially, it creates almost like a common platform that any application, social, games, anything else, can communicate with to see that you own Nike assets. And Nike's standard license terms will allow people to do certain things within reason. But if you want to do more than that, there's going to be a licensing deal. So it creates a more open ecosystem. And to be honest, it's a bit of a marketing man's dream, or marketing person's dream.
So one of which is these are specifically for Alex and Roman. One of which I know the answer to, but can Alex talk a little bit about his project that he's working on, which I think is super cool and is very NFT based. And I've just looked at Roman's website, which basically says nothing at all about what he's doing. So I don't know if that's because he's not saying anything about what he's doing. Okay, so if Roman might not want to answer the question about exactly what he's doing in more detail, but if he would, that would be fantastic. And I think people will be interested in what Alex is doing with NFTs.
Soulcast?
Yeah, all of it.
Oh, no, too much. So one of my projects is an NFT customization project, which is basically looking at how NFTs so far have been very static things. So people have tended to mint 5,000, 10,000, sold them, and it's the then what problem. I've got all these people, how do I keep them happy? How do I give these NFTs utility? What do we do? So myself and a few other people from the game industry, actually, so we're all game industry people, wanted to sort of create a more gamified way of allowing NFTs to be more engaging. And we've just got a very simple route, which is allowing artists and brands and game developers to create customizable NFTs from the off. The simple explanation for game developers is, we all create characters within our games, and we customize the hats and the clothing and so on. And we're starting to see this within NFTs and people doing it with doodles, but it's in a very simple way. So we're creating a platform called Soulcast, which allows any artist or brand to be able to create 2D or 3D content, make it customizable, sell the customizations over a long period of time. But all that content, as long as you wish it to be, can be remixed with someone else's content. So if you create badges and skins or give away achievements to your audience, then I could put those achievements on a skateboard that's been made by Fuckrender or Fewocious. So the achievements I get in my game, or the stickers I've got in my game, because I've earned them by being a top player, I can then use them on this other artwork or this other game or these other sneakers in the digital world. And it's that kind of trying to create an open remixing environment that we sort of have in the physical world, because you can customize all your stuff and put badges and stuff on backpacks, trying to create that in the digital world. So that's kind of another way to do interoperability as well as add some longevity to things.
Yeah, so I can't say much, but we are building a Diablo-like action RPG. And everybody who played Diablo was always wondering what's on the other side. So we are building a game where you cannot just play and kill monsters in dungeon, but you can actually, in a way, become who you kill and infuse their skills into yourself. And on the other side, you can actually own a dungeon and bring new creatures to life, which other people can kill and use to evolve further. And just a little bit food for thought, because we all had the game industry hat on, and I come from the financial services industry originally, and
Get out!
And if you think about it, games, they have all those virtual currencies already. These guys, in order to create equity or whatever, they need to do bank account verification, depository, transaction system. Then you create a new option, which is like rules and contracts and rules, all replaceable by one NFT in a smart contract. So obviously they're working on that, and they will come up with something to increase their fee income to 100% instead of 20 or 15 that I currently have. Once this happens, there will be a huge overlap for other industries. Just food for thought.
It's already happening in Switzerland. Okay, so I think we've come to the end of the panel now. I want to thank you all for participating with us in this. I want to especially thank these guys. Have you got any final closing statements before we go? Is there anything we need to look out for? Is there anything that, Romain's already sort of said? Is there anything else that we need to be sort of into, or what are we not following? Apart from my track this afternoon from 2 until 6 p.m.
No, but I just think if you're a game studio and you want to make your first baby steps into blockchain, we have an SDK alpha released, so we are trying to onboard a few game studios to help them with, so contact us and we're happy to explain how we can bring you and level up to blockchain gaming.